Hey guys, in this episode I'm going to show you how to make light rays in Photoshop. Hey guys, and welcome to Kelvin Designs. My name is Kelvin and I guess that's why it's called Kelvin Designs. In this episode I'm going to show you how to make light rays or God rays in Photoshop, basically adding really cool lighting effects that make a photo look much more interesting, add depth, simulates a very expensive lens. So pretty cool, really easy to do, but pretty cool effect. If you want to get all my episodes as they come out, subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking right here. And to get the raw files for this episode and all the source files to all my episodes, click right here. So once you've downloaded the episodes, it'll look something like this. It'll download into a folder. And in here you'll have 5 photos and a brush presets. Now the brush preset, I just thought it was a cool little goodie that you can use to make cool light rays. To load that up, you want to have Photoshop open, and you go to your, if you hit on the brush tool here and click on the little brush menu here, you can go here and load brushes. So load brushes, and you go here into the files that you downloaded and just click on this light brushes. And that'll load these few brushes that I have down here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 brushes. Really simple brushes, but can come really handy to make light rays. So let's start. I have 5 projects that I'd like to show you. Really easy. The first one is this one. Now the sun is over here, so try to keep the light rays as natural as possible. I'm going to just zoom in a little bit and then zoom out so that I have a nicer canvas. I'm going to create a new layer, and in my brushes, let's go all the way to the bottom here. Let's see what I have. I have this one. So as you can see, there are 3,000. They're all set by default to be pretty big. You can turn it down if you want to. I wouldn't make it too small. It's always better to start a little big and then maybe go a little smaller later. So my color is set to white right now. But I like to actually take the eyedropper tool by hitting the I key or just clicking on the icon and taking a part of what the sun is already the color of it, right? So like here, I know that the sun is back here and it's kind of a warmer color rather than just white. And go back to the brush tool or B, and let's just try this. I'm just gonna hit once, and that's what that looked like. It's pretty light, and actually because my opacity is at 20. I'm going to undo that, Command Z, and go to my opacity, just crank it up, all right? I want to get the full effect, and the 2000 pixels is a little too much. Let's do 1200 pixels, and just click once, all right? Now I'm too yellow. I feel like I've taken a little too much out of that warmth here, and there's different things we can do to make this better. The first thing is it's a little too small, so I could have made the brush bigger, but I'm just going to do Command T and transform this and just crank it up a little bit, something like this. And I'd like to have not just a solid color, but a little bit of a gradient. Easiest way, double click on the icon, which takes up your layer styles. And we're going to take a look at gradient overlays, all right? And in the gradient overlays, what do we have? We have foreground to background, foreground to transparent, and a bunch of other ones. So to do this right, I'm going to have to, before I set this, I'm going to have to pick both my colors. So I like the yellow. I'm going to take the eyedropper tool again. I'm going to pick a very light color, hit X to switch my foreground background, and go to my darker color of that. So I have sort of a very light yellow, and then a kind of a darker one. That way, when I show this again, double click and gradient overlay, and I tell it the one I want is foreground to background, okay? And the angle should be the same direction as the light ray. Let's try to invert it. So the light's on the right and the darker is over here. That's already a lot better. You can scale it if you want. You can make it smaller and bigger. 100% usually works pretty nice. Okay, let's just hit OK on this for now, and we can play with the opacity. You can try to do an overlay, which usually if there was a little bit of a darker color, would kind of burn the color in there. You can do a soft light, which usually works pretty nicely. None of these are actually affecting because I have the gradient overlay. I'd have to do the blend mode in here. So overlay in this case would look like this, and soft light would look like this. Both of which are pretty interesting. I actually like it just naturally, and maybe just turn down the opacity by like 80%, something like that. I don't want it to just completely, but I've definitely added some light on the right here. All right, so this is sort of like the most simple way to do that sort of God ray. All right, I'm going to go ahead and save this as Light Ray 1 PSD, and that way you can open up and see what I've done there. Okay. Okay, I'm going to close this, and let's take a look at number 2. This is a little more complex, and what I want is a little more light. You see you have a little bit of here, but it could look better if it was accentuated. So one way to do this is, so I'm going to create a new layer, and let's take a look at some of our other brushes. B for brushes, right click, and I have this circular one. Let's see what that looks like. So it looks like a sun, really. The cool thing about this is I can just go and put it, if I zoom out here, I could just put it on the right here or over here and basically move it around as I want and have a little bit of complex lighting, which is kind of, I really like that. Always try to stay in sort of the warms, just so that it doesn't cool or make the photo look too blue or white. I'm gonna go ahead and try this one. It's pretty cool, I like that. And we might even just make this bigger. Kind of like this, all right? It doesn't matter, it's totally blurry, so it doesn't matter if I make it too much bigger than it was originally. Maybe add a little more, that would be conflicting light rays actually, so I don't want to go too much. The angle has to be somewhat consistent. Now here's another cool little trick that you can do. I'm going to Command J or make a copy of this layer, and we're going to desaturate. So Command U, desaturate it, and then we're going to go ahead and filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and blur it. Maybe not this much, but pretty strong. All right. Hit OK, and now I'm going to hit overlay on this. All right. Now look, before, after. You see, I've really given it almost like a diffuse lighting feel to it. Granted, it's too strong and it's darkened the photo too much. So I can just tone this down, maybe give it a 70% or something like this. So that's pretty cool. And it's not bad. I actually want to crank it up just a notch, maybe make it 80, actually 90. I really like it around the highlights. I could go in here and just add a little bit of a curve just to lighten it up a notch. So something like this, okay? All right, which I like, that's pretty cool. All right, there's another thing that I like doing, which is I'm gonna go above everything, and Command-Alt-Shift-E makes a new layer with everything that's below it. So it's basically a flattened version of everything we have. And now I'm going to go to my camera raw filter, all right? And I'm gonna go to the clarity and just tone that down a little bit. Okay, -32. Increase the vibrance just a little bit, and maybe increase the exposure just a touch. Open up the shadows a little bit, not too much, and don't really want to bring the highlights too down, but I'll just take a look at it, not too much, just maybe a little bit. The important thing is I'm bringing the clarity down to give it that really diffused, almost hazy look, and I really like that. I really like that feel to it. So let's compare before. Let's bring this a little bigger. Before and after. Definitely gives it a feel of kind of a lower f-stop, stronger depth of field, and I really like it. So I'm going to save this and put it in here. There we go, as a PSD. That way you can look at what we did. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and close this, and let's take a look at the third one. And so we're going to essentially do this same thing here. The only difference is we're going to do a little masking to give a little depth to the sun rays or the God rays. I'm going to bring this up so I can see it a little better. Okay, make a new layer. Let's check out some of the other brushes. Let's see what this one looks like. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's look at the other one. That's not bad either. I think I'm going, let me try that first one we had in the beginning. That really, it's a little too simple. I think I like this one the best. All right, let's go with this one. Now, this doesn't have any kind of yellow. There's no sun rays here. I mean, you can see some shadows, but there's no God rays. So I'm going to just plop it in there. The color is probably wrong, and we can fix that. And then I'm going to kind of stretch it a little bit. I want it to be almost like a golden hour. It's kind of late in the day, and I'm going to try to keep these God rays kind of in alignment with the shadows. So kind of at the same angle, but pretty intense. All right, something like this. Now the color is a little wrong, and once again, we can actually go in here and give it a little gradient. So let's try that out. Gradient overlay, and that's pretty good. Might want to make it a little less strong. Let's go 80%. And the blend mode we can do, let's try screen, 2 lights. Soft light, that's a little better. Yeah, let's try something like this for now. And actually, I want it to be a little taller. I think it's a little, well, then I'm changing the angle. So I have to proportionally hold on the Alt and the Shift. And something like this. All right. Now it's all flat, it's all in the front. It doesn't feel like this tree right here doesn't feel like it's more forward than the others. So we're going to do a little masking. I'm going to do this kind of fast and just to get an idea of what we can do. So I'm going to do a foreground and a background just with this tree. And pretty simple. I'm going to create a mask right here, go to the brush tool, right click, and I'm just going to take a normal brush. All right, not 3000, let's go with 150, and that's pretty good, okay? And I'm just gonna brush here and shift click all the way down here and just basically cover this trunk, all right? I know I'm doing this really quickly, and you can take more time in doing the outline really perfectly. For what I'm doing, it doesn't have to be that perfect. I'm gonna unlink these, so that if I move the God rays, the trees don't move. So I can actually, here if I take the move tool and move it, it's still moving behind that tree, all right? Okay, I do want to blur this a little bit, just to make it even fuzzier. So I can just go blur, Gaussian blur on my mask. You see the selection is on the mask itself. Take a look here, just a little fuzzier, so that's better. Now, I'm going to duplicate this. So take this, bring it on top, and I'm going to invert my mask. So click on my mask, Command I. Now, this is just showing in front of the tree, but I want it to be a little less strong. So let's go with like 40%. So it's still there, they're still in front of it, but it's weaker because the tree's in front. Maybe 40 is even too weak. Let's try 50, it's a little better. I could do this again with maybe say this set of trees. So 1, 2, 3. Let's give it a shot. I'm going to Command J, just copies, and this time I'm going to brush out. I hit the B for brush, go to the mask, and let's just mask out all these trees over here. Okay. One. Okay, something like that. Oh, we got another one over here. Just hide. Let's hide this back. It's a little hard to see what I'm masking. All right, something like that. And so now this back one here, I'm going to put down to, let's say 80%, or even, let's try 70. So when you're in the move tool and you just hit on the numbers, it changes the opacity of your layer, by the way. Click on here, and this one I'm going to go maybe 30% or 50%, and the one in the front, let's go with 50%. It's not bad either, but there has to be some stronger contrast between these two. So let's go with 60 in front of that. This one's at 70, let's go to 80, 80, 60, can we crank up to 70 maybe? Okay. So this is behind these trees. This is just in front of this tree. And this is in, this should be everything else. So the easiest would be, this is in front of everything. All right, so I've disabled this layer mask. We can even delete it, okay? And this is in front of everything. Let's say this is 80%, or let's bring it down to 70. This is behind this tree, okay? Or actually in front. And we can invert this. So it's everything but this tree. And let's turn this down to 20%. And then this is everything else. So behind these other trees, and this can be down to, let's try 50. So now we have that depth in front of everything, behind that tree, and behind the other trees. So now I've created depth using these God rays. Again, we're going to do what we did in the last one. Command Alt Shift E, create another layer, and we can go and do the camera raw and tone down the clarity, increase the vibrance a little bit, maybe open up the shadows a notch. Could be a little more contrasted, something like that. And the vibrance needs to be toned down just a notch. All right, I'm giving it that really, it looks almost like a fairy tale forest feel to it, which I really like. We could darken it a little bit. It seems like it could be a little darker. So I'm gonna take the original here, Command J, bring it on top of everything, and Command U to desaturate it, so like this. And we're going to blur it again, like we did in the earlier one, Gaussian blur. And that's fine. And then now we're going to go overlay. So I've darkened, I've added some contrast there. It's a little too strong. So I'm going to turn down the opacity, say to 50. And let's see that. That's actually pretty cool. Definitely has some interesting God rays going on in there. And you can kind of selectively, if you feel like the light's too strong in here, you can kind of brush it out and mask it out. I like it this way, but again, this is a creative sort of process, and everybody has their way of doing that. So I'm going to say this is a PSD, so you can take a look at these different layers. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this, and let's take a look at number 4. So in this one, I'm actually going to do something much more simple. I'm going to try to do this in about 20 seconds, 30 seconds, see what we can get. So once again, same technique, Command J, just to get the diffuse lighting, Command U, desaturate, hit OK, go to filter and blur. I'm actually going to blur pretty much the same amount, so take a look at that. That's pretty good. Put it in overlay mode, put it at, let's say, 50%, and we got a little bit of that diffuse lighting feel, just a little bit. And now I'm going to Command Alt Shift E, just creating a new layer out of those. Filter, camera raw filter, and here, this is where I'm really going to lower the clarity, open up the exposure a little bit, especially open up the highlights. The highlights are a little too clogged up. Tone this down a little bit, and that's a lot better. Maybe change the temperature just a touch to get a little bit more into the yellows, because the God rays are going to work better that way. And here we go, hit OK. So that's better. And now new, and with a pretty warm brush, hit B, and I'm going to take this this very circular one I have and just put it right kind of here in the middle. And I can move it around as I want. Command T, and I'm just going to make this bigger and bring it where the other one is, right? So something like this. Now the color is definitely wrong, and once again, I want to use the gradient. This is a little, I want the middle to be a little brighter, perhaps even a little yellower. So something like this, right click, gradient overlay. Let's take a look at this, and let's put it in normal, and like so. It's not, okay, I need to do a radial on this one, and let's do reverse. Actually, no, I want it to be brighter in the middle. In this case, I need it to scale a little bit. I want the middle to be a little brighter, something like that. And I'm at 80%. Let's go a little brighter, a little more. Let's see if we can, if we use a soft light, if that brightens it up a little bit. It really does. And we got a little bit of color in there. I really like that. So hit OK on that, and maybe turn down the opacity just a touch so we don't blow out too much of that detail. Maybe 95% is pretty good. All right, I can make this actually a little bit bigger, just so that we cover, we have more of that sort of God rays. I could, if I feel like I've lost a little too much detail up there, I could just create a mask here, take a totally round brush, pretty big, make a 20% opacity on my brush, and just brush that out. See, so I've very light gray in the mask there, and I got some of that detail back and gives it a little more depth. I'm gonna go ahead and save this as a PSD, and that way you can check out and play around with these layers. All right, I'm gonna close that. And the last one, number 5. Now this is a little different. I wanted to try to give it a bit of a frosted look to it. So I'm gonna create a new layer, go to my brush, right click, and go all the way to the bottom. I'm gonna take, let's try this one. That's much too strong, 20%. I'm gonna, whoops, B for brush, 100%, and okay, it's a little too big. Let's try 1500. Okay, it's pretty good. The angle's a little wrong, so I'm gonna actually take the round one, and that way I can use, I want some lateral rays. So something like this, and now I'm gonna just make this really big to maybe a little lower like this, and big, and bring it over like that. They even need to be bigger because I need them. I could actually squeeze this a little bit. I really want some lateral rays here. Something like that. Okay. And I want it to be kind of bluish, so I'm gonna go in here and do a, actually I'm gonna pick my colors first, foreground, and I'm gonna take something like this. Okay. And let's just try, I'm gonna try to do a solid color overlay. Let's try to see how this goes. Kind of into those blues. Yeah, it's not bad. A little lighter maybe. Something like that. Maybe less magenta in there, a little more towards the cyan. That's pretty good. Okay. And once again, bring it down maybe a touch, like so. And we could even try to duplicate this, Command J, and just kind of bring it up a little further away, give it even more rays, and bring that down to 50% opacity. That over here, you can see that. So before and after, adding a little more complexity. It looks really strong right now. Let's go ahead and create a Command-Alt-Shift-E to create a new layer, flatten it out, and let's go to the camera raw filter, tone down the clarity, just a touch, not too much on this one, and let's go a little bit, let's try to go a little colder on this, and maybe a little touch of magenta. I'm trying to give it that winter feel. Does God rays, but it's almost icy. Might want to actually turn down the vibrance just a touch to get a little bit of a grayscale, a little less green in there. Still going in the cold temperature here. And maybe open up the shadows a touch, bring down the highlights to kind of close some of those, and turn the clarity down a little bit. There we go. All right. So let me just show you that before and after. It's kind of interesting. In the beginning, I mean, it was a nice photo, but I've added some pretty, okay, it's a little over the top, so we can tone down those rays. And if we wanted to, so like if I wanted to tone down everything, I could just take this here. Let's say I want to have 30%, and I could actually create a mask on here, gradient, and I have foreground to transparent. And I'm saying hide the bottom here, and go to the top, which is actually the opposite of what I want to do. I'm trying to keep the, I just want it up here. I don't want the white, I don't want the bottom to have as much God rays. I want it to be kind of lightened up in the bottom and a little more at the top, something like this. So I've kind of taken it out a little bit here. I could also take a brush up here, like so, maybe a little bigger than that, like a 1,000 is pretty good. And go to 20% opacity. I'm just gonna hide a little bit, or actually in this case reveal, because this is the original. Reveal a bit of the original around here, just so that it's a little more natural. I've gone a little over the top on those rays. So let's see before and after. Now to get a real sense of the all this is how the original was, and those little God rays. Those very lateral. Definitely give it some depth. So I'm going to go ahead and save this over here, and we can close this.